What is going on with UFC 310? This article from MMA Mania was published about a week ago and we still don't have any new answers. It looks like this card may end up having a fighter fight for an interim title who doesn't deserve it, or maybe it's just going to go and be headlined by Alexandre Pantoja, which, like UFC 301, is not going to get a lot of credit from the fans. And yeah, we'll get on to that. But talking about the possibilities, which I've been waiting, hoping that there would be confirmation, but as of right now there isn't. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. This is the fight which almost seems too good to be true if it were to happen, but there's no confirmation the fight is completely off, so I'm holding out some hope, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen at the moment. You've got Magomed Ankalaev here saying that Pereira essentially turned down the fight, but in some quotes he's saying things like Pereira deserved time off, so in other words he seems somewhat understanding that Pereira didn't take the fight, allegedly, again according to him. But with other quotes like this, it seems that Ankalaev is saying that Pereira is running scared from him, saying that he turned down the fight flat out. And we don't know what's going to happen. Again, Pereira fighting Ankalaev on short notice would seem almost too good to be true, because it would just be otherworld historical if Pereira were to take the fight and win. He would not be Fighter of the Year, he would be God, Emperor, whatever of the year if he was able to pull that off. But given that he's already taken short notice fights this year against the best in his division, he just fought recently, he deserves some time off, it just seems so unlikely that he would take the fight. But he did throw his name in the hat, and Pereira is not the type of guy to just talk for the sake of it. So there is still maybe some possibility this fight could happen. Ankalaev, who knows? I mean, does he really expect the fight to happen? And I mean, we don't know if he's 100% ready after his fight with Alexander Rakic. He hasn't been known to be a guy who wants to fight super regularly, and in the last few years he hasn't. So maybe he does want the fight, but maybe not. Who knows? Maybe both guys are trying to get more money. And it is possible that the UFC is looking for other possibilities, because they, being the businessmen they are, will try and get the replacement who will take the least amount of money. So they're not going to jump at the guys who say, yeah, I'll take it, but here's my price. They will try and find a guy to take the price that they're happy with, and if that doesn't work out, maybe they come back to these guys. Who knows? I mean, this is how Nate Diaz was able to get some big paydays in his career. And there are plenty of other examples, but Nate Diaz is the most recent one. So Ankalaev Pereira, not officially off, but there's no confirmation that it's going to happen as of right now. You've got Shavkat Rakhmonov saying in articles like this that he thinks he may end up fighting Kamaru Usman for the interim title. You have Kamaru Usman on his Instagram saying or suggesting that he could be fighting soon. Will he be fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov? I mean, there's a possibility. You recently had Ian Gary get a fight with Joaquin Buckley, so he's off the table. And also, I don't think Ian Gary was ever serious about fighting Rakhmonov anyway. You recently had Colby Covington on Submission Radio saying that he offered to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, and to that I say whoop-de-frickin'-do, because Covington calling for an interim title shot against a guy who he doesn't deserve to fight just by sitting out for as long as he has after, and I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, he ducked Ian Gary earlier this year. I don't give him any credit whatsoever for calling out Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, whoop-de-doo, you shouldn't even have this position. You should be fighting number 15 ranked, if anything. So that's currently where we're at. And if you look at the UFC rankings, it doesn't look too promising in terms of another fight getting announced, because Pantoja, well, he's on the card. Merab, he wants to sit out. Topuria just fought. Makhachev, he's fighting Sarukian at 311. Bilal's injured. Drukas just fought. Pereira, well, again, we're waiting to see what is going on with him. John Jones is fighting at 312, and Shevchenko, Zhang Weili, no, and Juliana Pena, triple no. Not interested, no thank you. So who else is going to headline this card if they can't get Pereira in there? And as for the welterweight division, going back up to the rankings, it really has happened at the worst time, because if Jack Della Maddalena wasn't injured, then that is the fight that 100% would be happening. Him versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, it would be picture perfect. I mean, that fight should have happened already if Maddalena didn't break his arm. But he's injured, he's out. It really is a terrible shame. And you look at Kamaru Usman, he last won a fight against Colby Covington at Madison Square Garden in 2021. So he has not won a fight for 3 years. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Him stepping in there against Shavkat Rakhmonov would just seem weird, wouldn't make sense. Now, Colby Covington, he technically won a fight more recently than Kamaru Usman, but it was not a fight worthy of putting him anywhere near the top 5 at all against Jorge Masvidal. And again, he's ducked so many contenders since then that he just shouldn't even be in this conversation whatsoever. So personally, I don't want to see Shavkat Rakhmonov fight guys who don't deserve it and have just been sitting out for a long period of time, not fighting contenders. I mean, Usman, credit to him, he fought Chimaev on short notice, but yeah, I just don't really want to see that. The name that I only just thought about, and I don't actually know why he hasn't been approached or in the news lately, is Leon Edwards. Yes, he looked bad against Bilal Muhammad, but he has won more meaningful fights recently than both Usman and Covington. And now, he's not the most willing guy in the world when it comes to taking fights that he's not interested in. I mean, this is a guy who was prepared to kill the welterweight division, not fight any meaningful contenders, and just kept on wanting to fight joke fight after joke fight after joke fight. But if he knew that he had a sure way to get back to the top of the division and challenge Bilal again, and yeah, do it by winning one fight, then surely he would take that fight, right? So I think that could be a possibility. I would prefer to see that rather than Usman or Covington fight Rakhmonov. Again, the fight that I really would want to see would be Jack Della Maddalena, but that's not happening. So yeah, this whole situation is kind of up in the air. It is looking like this card may be saved, but it's also looking fairly likely that this is just going to be a bit of a forgotten card, because if you look at the card here, you've got Pantoja against Asakura, which is a good fight, but I'll get onto Pantoja in a second. Gane versus Volkov, that's not even for the #1 contender position at heavyweight, because technically the heavyweight division has got Jones and Stipe fighting for it. I say technically because Aspinall is the real champion, but he's being frozen out by those guys. So these guys are fighting for like a weird #2 position. Nick Diaz versus Vicente Luque, it reminds me of Jose Aldo returning against Bautista at UFC 301, but it's not a very interesting fight. I mean, Diaz, why is this guy even fighting? Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling, that is a good fight. But then you've got Anthony Smith against Reyes. I mean, washed up guy against washed up guy. Michael Chiesa, he hasn't been interesting for a while. Clay Guida is on the card, my goodness. And yeah, right now it says Shavkat Rakhmonov TBD. So who is going to headline this card? If they end up going with Pantoja versus Asakura, it's not the worst fight in the world, far from it, but it's a bit of a weird fight. And Pantoja, this is the last thing I'll say, he has kind of become the champion that a lot of people are a bit tired of. Not because he's done anything wrong, but his fight against Moreno was a good one when he won the bout. But since then, the Roy Val fight was dull. It was just a takedown fest from Pantoja and nothing really interesting happened. It was shades of a John Fitch fight back in the day. And the fight against Steve Erceg was one that he should have lost, and even though he showed heart to stay in the fight, the drama wasn't coming from him, so it was just a fight that people, again, were a bit frustrated with. So if this fight does go ahead as the main event, it's not going to be a good pay-per-view. But let's hope that something can happen, but it doesn't look too promising at the moment. Let me know what you guys think, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more.